Lincoln Legends, Lore and Lagniappe, presented by your Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, celebrating 50 years of community support. Enjoy as our museum director, Rick Godley, takes the time to capture the stories of life in Lincoln Parish from the characters of Lincoln Parish. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rick Godley, the director of the Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, and we want to invite you to a special event January 31st. It's going to be Saturday from 11 till 1 because we're going to have the third recipient of the Lincoln Parish Museum Legacy Award, and she happens to be sitting to my right, your left, Johnnie Frazier Hogan. And Johnnie, welcome in and congratulations.
Thank you so very much. I can't tell you what an honor this is.
Well, the award was founded 2 years ago. Dr. Philip Cook was the first recipient, and Billy Green last year, and now it's Johnnie Hogan. And Johnnie, one of the requirements, the committee, or it's not even a requirement, it is not so far-fetched to say that if it wasn't for Dr. Philip Cook, if it wasn't for Billy Green, if it wasn't for Johnnie Frazier Hogan, and others, there's a high probability this treasure wouldn't be here. So that's why you're the recipient of it for all that you've done.
I appreciate that.
So you're welcome to come. If you would all please pass the word. It is free. We're going to have a presentation, a proclamation. We're going to have music. We're going to have stories. We're going to have people coming together and celebrating Johnnie Frazier Hogan. My question, first one to get us started here, Johnnie, the museum's 50 years old in 1975. When was your first awareness and introduction to the Lincoln Parish Museum?
My husband and I moved back to Ruston in 1982. And our belief and commitment in life was to always try to be involved in the community that you live in. And we moved here, moving back to both our hometowns. My husband was born and raised in Shedron, and I was born and raised in Ruston. And so we were very excited about that move, and we very much wanted to be part of Ruston. So we started with the Chamber of Commerce as a business, our church, Redeemer Episcopal, and we always were members of any major organization like a museum or something that needed funds, that depended on the community to support them. And so I found the museum. And at that time, Mr. Roland Gill, I think, was here, and I visited that way. I met Billy Green, and of course, everyone knows a lot about Billy Green now, and this is absolutely his true love. And so it wasn't long. He asked me if I would be on their board. And but by that time, Paul and I had decided, we realized that the museum really needed money or funds or that kind of thing. And Billy was having a dinner at his home for some special group, and we were invited. And I met many other people that were very involved with the museum. So it just kind of went from there. It made the love of the museum come alive. And
you bring up a valid point, because in my short tenure here, that a lot of people do not realize that this is a nonprofit organization, and B, it is solely dependent upon the kindness and the contributions of the community. And Johnnie, another thing that I'm overimpressed with is that for 50 years, including what you're talking about, when the initiative went out, the call went out to the community, they have sustained this and are still sustaining this.
Exactly. And there have been times through the years where I've worked here, say basically from 83, because I moved here in November of 82. So I would say it'd be up in the year of 83 and 84. And, but there have been some truly lean years. And we really had to watch our expenses, and we've always been so fortunate in that we had a hostess, is what we call the person that stayed here on a daily basis. They were ever accommodating. You know, if we were short on money to pay something, they'd say, well, don't pay me right now. Just get enough to pay the electric bill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we'd had a couple of those 2 or 3 months, you know, where it'd be tough.
Right.
And but we'd always come up with how to do it.
The Lincoln Parish Museum's recipient of the Legacy Award is Johnnie Frazier Hogan. And in those, 1982, I was going to say all 50 years, you're 7 years shy of being right there from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But did you realize the wealth? Because that's what I'm also learning in my capacity here as director, the wealth of history. And then the more I learn, the more I share with people, when they walk through those doors, they're like, I never knew about that. So history matters is, I guess, what I'm saying. Talk about that.
Absolutely. And I think what surprises me is so many people have been in this building, this gorgeous, building, and have never been upstairs. And upstairs we have beautiful displays of all types of, areas of history for our parish and that kind of thing that tells you history of different portions of things. And so if you ever come back, please go upstairs. Mm-hmm. That's important. And I've always been so proud when maybe a resident would find something in their home that suddenly they realized it really went back to Lincoln Parish history. And they would come to see if there was any way we could take it as a donation. And we've had several very treasured collections and items that have been donated.
Well, one of those is the Native American collection, the W.A. Todd collection. That was donated here. That is an incredible display in the back. And so, yes, and then more and more, though, Johnnie, I'm also seeing a resurgence or a renaissance, if you will, of younger generations, because they don't know the history. If you don't know the history, you can't talk about the history. And so that's one of the reasons why I would dare say this place even exists, is to preserve those stories. And I'm seeing more and more, I'll say younger than us, generations in their 40s and 50s, they want to know. So I guess what I'm saying is, for 50 years, people have sustained us, and who knows where the next 50 years goes, but we're just, we're holding, I don't know if I'm leading anywhere, but you know what I mean? People like to know once they find out, this is a rich area, Lincoln Parish, man.
Absolutely, and I feel that it has brought together all segments of our population. One of the things that we did have, our board that served so greatly. I served as president several times, and I've served on the board continuously until just recent years. And we always had a really nice spring party, and we always had a very nice Christmas party. But everyone that we could possibly get here that had contributed to the museum was invited to come to those. And it's amazing the cross-section of population and the differences in their backgrounds and their commitment to the community and that kind of thing. So those things are, and you're doing that. That's what I love about the fact that Rick is making this place come alive, y'all. And I'm so proud of having him here. But we just really enjoyed, and the people we would tell them, we're going to have our spring party on a such and such date. If you haven't made your yearly contribution, you might want to get it in, And so it was amazing how sometimes right near a party, how much money would come in. Right. And so it was really funny.
Well, you talked before we turned the camera on about, and we want to give honor where honor is due, and you brought up Sharon Gerald because she was very gifted in enabling to bring an event together, but she brought it together in a way where there were even style shows, and we're in the mid-'80s now. Yes. So talk about that, because I guess I want this to be an inspiration For others out there who have an idea, and through collaboration and cooperation one with another, we can create a really neat event. And this was one of them.
Absolutely. And I inherited this because it was going on by the time I became part of this, but it was a big job for me. And Women's Department Club is a local women's organization that is one of the original women's organizations in Lincoln Parish. And they've been active all these hundreds, 50, 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
And their commitment to the museum started when they were meeting in a place that they had to move from that. And Billy Green allowed them to start using the Lincoln Parish Museum as their meeting place. Well, Lincoln Parish Museum didn't have everything they needed. And so they had to find a way to make some money to help fund or subsidize or whatever the fact that they were going to be using the facility, the electricity, the lights, the water, the everything. And with Sharon Gerald and as many of the local ladies' clothing entities that were in this area, they went every place trying to get people to take part. They put a style show together once a year. And the ladies would get everything together. Sharon would help. She would do food for, say, like 120 people, 150 people. We would fill the Civic Center with tables. And so we sold tickets. And then at the end of the day, the little minute amounts of money that Sharon would charge us, but it was a minimum amount that she ever charged us. But it barely covered her cost, I'm quite sure, never her time. But we would take those funds and donate it back to the museum. And so for quite a number of years that happened. And to our sad heart, we lost Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, the next year we tried it on our own and realized none of us had the expertise to do this. So we finally decided it wasn't a good idea for us to continue trying it. But it was bringing the community together to raise money for the museum.
Well, not only the community, with people, but also the businesses. And that was another way to showcase what we have here in Lincoln Parish. All right, so let's transition a little bit. It's Johnnie Frazier Hogan. You said you're from here, so tell us about the Wonder Years coming up here in Ruston.
Well, I grew up in Ruston. I was born in Ruston. My father was Warren Frazier Construction Company, and Noella Frazier was my mother.
Is that Frazier Road named after?
And Frazier Road. My family, Frazier Road, if you leave 167 and turn onto Frazier Road, and when you go on kind of a straightaway, and then there's a big deep hill that goes down. Right where that big deep hill goes down, there's a bunch of big oak trees, and my great grandfather lived in that area. And then if you go on over, there's a rock house that kind of sits off the road, and there was a big home there. And my dad was one of 14 children, and they were all raised there on Frazier Road. And at that time, there was lots of gardens. They grew everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but my dad my dad and my two brothers. Mike Frazier is my brother, and Warren Frazier Jr. Was my middle. He was our brother that we lost. I'm sorry, and we lost him to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And but they worked together, and they were like us. They believed in helping and doing and being part of the community and that kind of thing. So, but I grew up, went to Hillcrest, and then Ruston Junior High. I started Ruston High School. And then my dad's company had a huge job going in out of New Orleans, Lake Pontchartrain and that kind of thing. And he got transferred down. And my mom tried in every way to make a home without a father, but on a weekend, and we all decided it wasn't worth it. So we all moved to South Louisiana with my dad. So I ended up graduating from East Jefferson High School. And I have a little plaque I made that has a picture of all that says, I went to Ruston High. My true love is Ruston High. It'll always be Ruston High. And doggone it, I graduated from East Jefferson. So anyway, but in that time, that sounds sad because I didn't get to graduate. But let me tell you another little part of that story is that being a senior in high school, and I was new. I was trying to, say hello, meet people, and I met a girl, and or really a group of girls, and they were talking about the fact they had met this guy from Shudert, Louisiana, that had moved down to that area, and he was with Delta Airlines, and I thought, who could that be? And then they told me who it was, and I knew exactly who it was. It was Paul Hogan. And so it wasn't any time that Paul Hogan became part of my life. And but the funny part about it is he called my dad. And my dad knew his family really well. And he told him, who he was and that he was there working and that he realized I was younger than he was. But he sure would like to come and take me for a Coke or a meal or that kind of thing or a movie. And would he give permission for that? And I thought that was pretty neat that he called my dad first. And then after that all happened, then we became best of friends. And I started getting him dates with everybody I knew. And then later I thought, how crazy are you?
Right.
And so anyway, I graduated from high school and but 2 weeks later I got married. And Paul by then had been transferred to Monroe, to the terminal in Monroe. So we had a home. He had already bought a house, and I started my young adult life off in my own home with a wonderful husband, and we were married 60 wonderful years, and it was great.
Of course it was great. It was awesome. Well, let's stay there for a second, just for the sake of the people watching. This goes back to, was it the mid-60s we're talking about? I mean,
Right.
just to put a time.
I graduated in 58.
In 58.
Got married in 58. Then early 60s, he was still with Delta. You want me to go from there?
Well, yeah, no, I just wanted, because people are, here you are, you're born, raised Ruston, you get, and where I'm going to go with this is you get, or your father gets transferred to South Louisiana right on the eve of your senior year, big year in the life of anybody in the late 50s, the wonder years. And the verse that's coming to my mind is, I know the plans I have for you are to prosper you and not harm you. So here, you could have been totally bummed out, but look what came out of that.
No.
60 wonderful years.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Paul was always a thinker and a doer. And everybody that knows him and everybody that sees the things that we've accomplished in Ruston even know that. But he quickly changed from Delta to Allstate Insurance Company. And he became the youngest Allstate agent ever hired. They argued with him for months and months that they couldn't hire him, and he kept going back to Jackson, telling them, I really would do a good job for you if you could just hire me. He had several friends that he had met that were older gentlemen that he fell in love with, their abilities to work. And so anyway, the long of the short, and the short of the long is that he was hired. He stayed as an agent very successfully. He was then moved into management because he had proven a point that a younger person could be hired where they always felt it took a mature man to sell insurance to anybody, not a woman, but a man. And And so they wanted him to prove in the management field that he could be successful there, which he was. So we did that until 1969. And we had friends that had been with Allstate that had gone into Snelling and Snelling employment agencies. So we decided we're just going to do this. Our two children were young. They were kindergarten and preschool. And so we thought, you know what? We've got a nice nest egg put together. And if this works, that's great. If it doesn't work, they'll never know the difference. Mm-hmm. So we bit off and we said goodbye to a wonderful company and a really great secure job. We moved to Fort Smith, Arkansas, which was where the first available to anywhere near where we wanted to be franchise. You had to buy a franchise to have Snelling and Snelling. And we opened that office. And we soon said, you know, this is going great. We're going to look at, we convinced them that there could be a satellite office in Fayetteville. So, Fayetteville was beginning to burst wide open. And so we opened an office in Fayetteville. And then it wasn't long. The office in Little Rock wasn't doing very well. And they decided that they needed a new owner there. So we bought it. Long of the short, we successfully ran those businesses. We loved it. We had a lot of community involvement in Fort Smith. I had a whole other career there, owning my own business and that kind of thing. And Paul ran Snelling and Snellings, and with that and with him, we had several businesses, different types of things. And but we always had said someday in our lifetime we're coming home to Ruston. And so both our parents, sets of parents, were not doing well health-wise. So we finally decided that maybe we needed to look at when would be a good time to measure off selling multi-businesses that we owned in Fort Smith. And our two older children were both at OSU, going to college.
OSU, Oklahoma?
Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking, that's Bill?
Bill and Ginger were both there. And our youngest son was going to be in the 6th grade the next year. And we said, you know, and he was very, very sport-oriented. We said we can't wait because we're going to mess his sport career up if we keep waiting. So we made the decision. We started putting stuff on sale within a short period. God had a hand in this because, you know, everything sold within a reasonable time except our house. And so anyway, we actually just moved to Ruston, started coming, staying here. We put our 6th grader in school here when school started. And but we got things together, and by November, we were settled enough that we actually physically moved from Fort Smith and we still had a house there, but we were still, we were settled enough that we could say we lived in Ruston.
Was this 1982?
This was 1982, November of 1982. And we built out off of Frazier Road. While we were building, we bought a very large mobile home, put it on the property, lived in it. We moved from a very large home to a mobile home, and that was an adjustment if there ever was one. And but anyway, we loved every minute of it, and that's when we just started getting involved in everything. And I've always told people, I've heard the story, you can't ever move home. You know, it's different. Things are different. But if you apply yourself and start hunting up your old buddies and it wasn't long I was having lunch with a group of ladies that we all went to Ruston High together. Until today, every Wednesday we meet at Squire Creek and have lunch. You know, a good group of us do. And but you just have to put your foot forward and keep going.
Well, you know, and the phrase is right, you can never go home, but Ruston to me is one of the places where it's a great place to get away from, but it's a great place to get back to.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And let's talk with Paul, about Paul and you. Did you know he had an entrepreneurial spirit? I mean, because it takes a risk to do what he's done, and it also, for you as well, you know what I mean? Because you had to support him in those risks, and they all turned out well for you. So,
well,
and you too are an entrepreneur.
I did not. I mean, when we, no, I had no idea. He worked for Delta Airlines. I knew him as a high school. I knew of Paul because he had a very good reputation, but he had a reputation. He drove really nice cars in high school. He collected, everybody that knows him knows he loves old cars. Okay, well, he always had some fabulous car that he was driving in high school, and he went to Shudrin High School, but every girl in Ruston High School was wanting to ride in his car. And so anyway, that's the biggest part I knew about him. And his family were, you know, very devout people that for family and that kind of thing, and so, but I think together, we just built a spirit. You know, I was the paper person, and he was the thinker and the doer, and I kept up with the papers and the stuff, and he kept up with what we had to do.
I moved here in '82, the same year you moved back, and all I ever knew about Paul or the name Hogan was the Hogan hardwoods, Hogan timber, Hogan, you know, in the woodworking. I did not know about the Snellings. I did not know about the insurance, and all I knew about was what. So was that a whole nother entrepreneur thing he did?
No, okay. When we moved back here, we actually went into the home building business.
There you go.
So we built Wedgwood. We built Hidden Valley. We built many homes, but what's called the Hogan House, the Hidden Valley home that you see them all scattered all over now. Okay, we love to travel, and in that traveling, out in the, I think this was maybe in a Las Vegas trip or something, but anyway, no, it was in Florida. And we came across a whole area where they were building a smaller home on a smaller lot. And you could take an acre or two and house a bunch of families and build a nice house. And it had to have a certain design where the windows didn't match the windows in the alley, in the sideway. And you had to utilize every inch of it to get it. And so we came home, and a habit of mine and a hobby of mine has always been, I would rather read a house plan book than I had a cooking book, you know, or that kind of thing. I just had a love of looking at house plans. And so we started putting together house plans. And so we got a group of house plans put together, and they started calling them the Hogan houses. I
mean, you and he had no background in building houses.
None whatsoever. Had no idea.
This is pretty fascinating. I mean,
didn't have the foggiest. We had built our own home in Fort Smith.
Right.
But you know, everybody. I didn't have any idea how to run a ladies' ready-to-wear either when I bought the gazebo, here in Ruston. And
what year was that?
Oh.
Guesstimate.
I don't know. Guesstimation. 82, 85, 87.
Okay.
90. Maybe, okay. And but we were building lots of houses, and I was stuck in the office kind of doing paperwork a lot. And so Paul came in one day, and he said, your sister-in-law works for a ladies' ready-to-wear, and I saw her, and she said that she's going to sell the store, and we decided you could easily learn how to go to market, and you could do this paperwork while you help manage the store.
Right.
So before I knew it, I was buying a store with no knowledge of any kind as to how to go to market. And so the contract I had with the lady that I bought it from was, she was successful. She was moving from Ruston.
Who was this?
Laura Newsom. And but anyway, her contract said she had to go to market with me so many times. And so the first market we went to was a spring market. And Paul got the biggest, he went to. And but I'll always remember, because the models would model things. Well, spring market is bathing suits. So he got a charge out of this. He just loved it. And so, but anyway, I learned quickly. And I would see Larry and Sharon Gerald at market. And Larry would always give me a hard time, and he'd say, did anybody tell you how many tops to buy for how many bottoms? You know, and stuff like that. He was always so cute about it. But I have to say, by crook or chance or whatever, I was very successful in that store. And it just got to be more than I could handle.
Right.
With all of it going on. And I got an opportunity to sell it to a very nice lady. And I did.
Awesome, awesome. Just for the sake of those still watching too, Frazier Road, Johnnie Frazier, sometimes it's hard for people who come to Ruston, or even us, to walk out the front door here of the museum and not imagine that it was just a 2-lane. And there was no interstate at that time, and you were way out there. Matter of fact, you were even further north than the Chautauqua was. I mean, you were in the country.
I was. My family home is on the Farmville Highway, and after let's see, what would be there now?
Rolling Hills?
Well, no,
somewhere out there?
Burgessville Road. They're just shortly past Burgessville Road.
Okay.
Okay. The UPS used to be kind of back in there.
Right, yeah. There's a truss
There's two houses
company
right there. And one is my brother's, that's way off the road with the pond in front of it. And the other one, it was my mother and father in my home, and with a pretty red barn behind it.
I know exactly where they are.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's where I went to junior high, high school, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And it was in the country.
Right.
Yes, and Frazier Road, where my grandparents lived, was a dirt road.
And so you went to high school, and it was where the high school is now.
It certainly was.
So what kind of a trip was that? Because there was no interstate. Well, no, the interstate was coming in the mid-60s.
I rode a bus. I caught the bus in front of my house on Farmville Road.
Gotcha.
And we went to school.
You have been involved not only with the Lincoln Parish Museum in depth, but other organizations. I know the Master Gardeners, the Ruston Garden Club. Talk about why you're involved in them, and what's another one? The Chamber of Commerce you got in, the Episcopal Church of the Redeemer. Touch on those soft spots in your heart.
Well, of course, the Church of the Redeemer is just really dear to me, and they are a lifeline, you know, and the Master Gardeners. I just wish everybody realized how much the Master Gardeners does for Lincoln Parish, because the Lincoln Parish Park, there's so many nice things out there, and flowers and educational and that kind of thing that we do out there. You know, we've got a complete tree trail that you can follow, and every tree that we've located or planted or whatever is identified, so that you can know what that kind of tree is like. There's flower beds with all kinds of flowers. There's a small butterfly garden out there, that kind of thing. The entryway when you go in is always pretty with plants and flowers. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of hours for members to go out there and do all that.
Well, and then the butterfly garden downtown.
Right, and the butterfly garden downtown on the corner of 167 and Highway 80 or Georgia. Okay, that took a while. And it also took the city of Ruston to be so generous, because the property, they owned the lot, and then with the road, they had to change the road. And when they did, to make that turn for the big trucks and things to turn, it actually took enough footage out of that piece of property that they couldn't sell it for a building to go on. And so we had been searching for a place to put our butterfly garden. And so they have allowed us to have the right to put our butterfly garden there. And so I don't know if everybody's aware, hopefully you are, but every spring we have a huge plant sale.
I know you do.
And that plant sale funds many things that we do in the community. And so by having that plant sale and taking a portion of that money for a number of years, we were able to put enough money together to build the little gazebo type building, have heart lighting was so nice and so kind in that they built that butterfly,
right,
up there and gave it to us at a very, very, very reasonable price. And the other part is, I don't know if people are aware of the fact that Lowe's really believes in our community too. And we were researching, and I was very involved in this fence part, as to, we had to fence it off. Okay, and but it just got more expensive and more expensive. And so I was at Lowe's and we were just, getting all the prices and getting all this. And I finally got the right person, and I got a fence at cost because it was a community thing. And y'all, they installed that at their own cost.
Cool.
To benefit the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it was just wonderful. But it's things like that. Daily, there are many, many people that pass by there. People walk.
Oh, yeah.
I have people tell me all the time, well, I walked my dog and I went through the butterfly garden this morning,
Mm-hmm.
But all the plants are changed out very often. And it takes a lot of work. And Louisiana Tech allows us to use one of their greenhouses. And by using that greenhouse, we're able to keep plants going that we can put in these strategic places.
The spirit of collaboration and cooperation has always been present here. Mm-hmm. It may not seem so to the casual eye, but when people start to get involved and start working together, things happen. And I mean, you're a facilitator of that. Besides Paul, is there somebody who's influenced you on the way up? Be it a figure of history, maybe somebody in the communities, like so-and-so, a teacher? You're smiling like who? When I say somebody that said something to you that helped you in growing up, who would that be? Does anybody come to mind?
My dad. That's a hard subject.
It is. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll let people ask you when they come
Mm-hmm.
to your event on the 31st of January.
Well, and one thing I really want to make sure is part of what we talk about
Mm-hmm.
is nothing I have ever done can I really feel like I did by myself. I have always had a great committee or somebody or a group or something that was so supportive that I could always call on help. I could always, get the project done. Just like when the years I served on the Peach Festival committee. I mean, if it hadn't been for all those people that volunteered.
Again, the spirit of collaboration and cooperation. If somebody didn't take the lead, they would not have someone to follow. So I hear what you're saying. You're exactly right. People helped you do, but that's only because you said, I'll go. Here I am, send me, I'll go. And so people followed that, and that's to your credit. Any closing words, thoughts you'd like to share with people? Because I get inspired, and that's what I told you. I mean, that when people watch this or find out more, they're going to say, well, you know what, I can get out and do something, and maybe I should just get out and do something, and whatever that may be.
It doesn't have to be big.
That's right. That's right.
You know, I mean, all the little things that need little things, but you don't have to take on a big project, you know, and but sometimes it turns out big, and I really feel like I lost my very best buddy and my very, very best friend when my husband died.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have curled up at home and just, you know, that's how I felt like I wanted to do. But I knew there were things that still needed to be done. And if I was going to represent what he taught me, well, and your question to go back, I think I can answer it now. Who influenced me the most? I can't tell you how influenced I was my whole life by my own husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we had a great relationship, friendship, marriage. It wasn't all hunky-dory all the time, but we did so many things together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a lot of families and couples don't have that opportunity. But one thing he taught me was, don't hang your head down and be sorry for yourself. You know, you got to hold your head up and move on. If everything isn't great, it'd be better tomorrow, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think that if my life, I've always said, I've got to give back for what I've been given.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We should end it right there. Johnnie Frazier Hogan, y'all are invited to the Lincoln Parish Museum. She is the recipient of the 3rd Lincoln Parish Museum Legacy Award. It's going to be Saturday, January 31st, 11 a.m. till 1. We'll have music, we'll have some food, we'll have some praises, proclamations, maybe a prayer too, right? I mean,
yes.
That's quite all right. And a reception. Yes. So you are cordially invited. And Johnnie, it's been an honor for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can't say how honored I am that I'm honored, you know. I mean, when you do the work, you don't ever think about it, you know. And but I really want to say thank you to the committee that put this thought together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way. I want everyone to come here and see what Rick has done, because my best hire that I ever have done for this museum was when I was involved with getting Rick here working.
That's right. I heard about it and I said, who do I need to call? Johnnie Hogan. Okay. And that's how it all started. So I thank you.
So, you know, I just am so thankful that we've taken a real turn into the new century.
That's right. That's
we
right.
We have. Thank you, everyone.
And there you have it. Thank you so much. Please pass the word far and wide, and we'll see you on the 31st, January.
Thank you for watching Lincoln Legends Lore and Lagniappe, presented by your Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, celebrating 50 years of community support. Please follow us on Facebook for all future events as we celebrate our 50th anniversary this year. Thank you once again for your contributions of support. This has been a Godly Works for Nonprofits production in association with Rick Godley's ATL Features. ATL stands for All Things Local. ATL also stands for All Things Lincoln.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Good night.